This is the same with just products that you buy in general. If someone goes to it and had a bad experience from the first time they used it, you're then on an uphill battle internally in the organization to get people to come back when you eventually fix it.
AI's impact on content, business, and strategy is disruptive. Join us as we interview industry thought leaders on how to adapt. This is the Markup AI Podcast. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our next episode of the Markup AI Podcast. We have a very special episode because we're going to be talking about how our organization went from zero AI adoption for efficiency gains and employees to use to help with their day-to-day lives to full-fledged, everyone has access, building their own agents. And I'm excited to bring Martin Hempstock back onto the show, our VP of Platform Engineering. Martin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
And I'm really excited because you had really led the majority of this effort to get these AI tools enabled and adopted for these organizations. So as we look at this about 18 months ago, before we really started, I remember I had an idea of how do we create a mini-me so that our sellers have someone to ask questions about product or competitive intel and email writing so I could be focused on more strategic things. And at the time, I built a little custom GPT and I distributed that to folks, and that worked out pretty well. But we were missing some serious opportunities when it came to company information, customer and prospect information, things you couldn't share with a public GPT, internal organization like information. And that's when you had this idea of creating this environment for this organizational data to be housed in, and then to disseminate that so everyone in the org had access to it. Can you just tell me what triggered this idea initially to get the idea of having, how do we have all employees harness this data?
So really where it started is we had a company offsite in Ireland and I was in the customer, so the front of office breakout. Yeah. And we were talking about all the various pain points we had in the organization. And one of the ones that people mentioned was how hard it is just to get a single view of everything. And I know this isn't unique to our organization. Even I look back in my military career, like literally all the way back to then, like every organization has different bits of information silos in each place. And then to try and figure out the entire picture is just like a massive jigsaw puzzle. So one of the things with there is like, is there any way we could use AI to try and bring everything together? So, I know everything about my customers. I'm equipped before I speak to them. That's essentially what drove the idea forward. It wasn't just mine. It was a bunch of people, a bunch of conversations. It was one of the best breakout sessions, I'd say, for the entire week. And, we came up with some great ideas there.
Well, to see what we have now in having that event being where this idea really was formed, it's impressive to see in what I would say was 6 months to have this already fully fledged and delivered. So when you're coming up with this idea, like, what kind of outcomes were you thinking? Did you even have a path to approach? I feel like this is all unpaved and uncharted territory. There was no clear, easy path to follow. How did you figure out the directions to go?
It's a good question. I mean, we had bits of ideas, like our CTO had mentioned LibreChat in the past. It was have a look at that. As part of my job and my role, I've kept up to date with MCP, all the developments in AI. So we had that equipped, and then it was after the offsite. There was an action item there. Let's try and figure it out. So we did. I worked with my colleague Carl Schrubb, who leads the SRE team. And we worked together on essentially the first pass of a LibreChat deployment, and then just hacked around. I know it's not probably the best thing, but we just experimented around with the tool, figured out what it could do, what it was capable of, and just discovered through doing, I think is probably the best way to describe what we did.
No, I agree with you. So I guess, you mentioned a tool like LibreChat. I'd love to get your thoughts about, like, adoption is going to be a main barrier, right? And so the idea is, how do we pick which models to use? How do we disseminate these out to the employees? People need these easy interfaces if you want completely company-wide adoption. Can you talk a little bit about what LibreChat does, how it integrates into which models we chose to help employees with, and how people could use this tool to help get information or generate content and expedite their efforts in their roles?
So I think the main thing I like about LibreChat is it's not tied to a specific model. It's essentially an interface, and the way they've made that interface work is it actually works with the APIs of the providers. You'll see with Claude, OpenAI, and so on, they have like the ChatGPT consumer-based product that's, I don't know, $20 a user. And so if you wanted every user in the organization, you end up with per user subscriptions for all of them. With LibreChat, because it's using the other pricing model, the API key model, you're only actually ever paying for the usage of AI for that particular provider. The big advantage for us then was we just went to every last provider. We already had enterprise agreements with every last provider, given what we do anyway. So we just plugged in API keys, and then every time there's a new model, we just release it and let people experiment around. And I think this is really the learning, Joe. Like, some models are better at doing certain tasks than other models, but having all of those models available to everyone means that they can experiment around and see what works for them.
I love it. I feel so like if we talk about LibreChat, for a lot of folks who may not understand what it is that we're talking about, LibreChat is one of several providers that give you this kind of software graphical interface, like you expect when you go to ChatGPT and you get a little chat window, and you can ask it your questions and have these chat experiences like you would expect from Gemini or ChatGPT. But like you said, the benefit of this is because it's that top level layer, we can choose, with our relationships, the models we want. So we do internally have access to OpenAI's models, Google's Gemini models. We have access to Anthropic's Claude models as well. And it allows us to choose, because I have noticed that I will choose certain models based on the outcomes I want, because I do have better experiences based on either the content I'm creating or the projects that I'm trying to use. Which it's been so easy for us to deploy and get access to these. So another question I'd love to ask is, you didn't just go get a license and start, getting these models into this application and start sharing it out to everybody. Before you can even do that and train people, there's this whole like InfoSec approval approach. Can you talk about how that process was like? What were any of the challenges, or are there any roadblocks you hit that, if you knowing now, you can avoid, that would help anyone who's trying to deploy like this, expedite that kind of an approach and deployment?
So, I mean, we was in a fairly good situation, which makes it quite a hard question to answer. In terms of the approval of using all of the providers, already had InfoSec approval. We already had that piece. In terms of deploying the tooling itself, it was internal tooling in our internal infrastructure, and it didn't cost us any money. So, we did a light review of LibreChat, checked in terms it meets our standards, the way it was, well-maintained product. And really, it was easy. Honestly, as tools go and things, it was really easy, because it was an open source, well-established product and plugged into things that we already had agreements with.
No, that I would say something that I will say that this is something that you as an individual can't fix, but you have to advocate for and get a team of people to do, which is to get the company to be excited. Oh, I'm just glad my dog didn't hear him. To get the
Sorry
company,
about that.
oh, totally fine. I love the pets, but it is to get the company to prioritize being an AI open company. There are so many organizations where the fear, and I can understand in highly regulated industries, there's a lot of pressures, but if you're in a grow fast moving company, your competitors are using these tools. You need to find safe ways to use them. So I'm glad that in our organization, we've taken that seriously and really put in this highway fast track of prioritizing, deploying these tools and technologies safely for the org. So as infosec wasn't too terrible because we already had that approach. We've already had these agreements in place. What kind of concerns did you have about getting this deployed for the internal employees? Did you have like a POC? Did you have a small group run? Did you just release it to everybody? Tell me about that process you went through to get it enabled for the organization.
So we soft launched it initially, if I remember back. So we actually deployed it and didn't really tell anyone about it. It was available. Anyone with a Google account could get it, and I shared it with a few execs, a couple of directors that was at the offsite, and just started having people play around with it. Once we'd got that certain level of feedback and it worked okay-ish, we then just put in our general Slack channel, LibreChat, please sign in, play around with it. But the key bit, and I think this was my biggest fear over everything, was it had to work. I think that was the key bit. The whole thing that we were trying to solve with this customer information piece, had to work before we shared it, because I think this is the same with just products that you buy in general. If someone goes to it and had a bad experience from the first time they used it, you're then on an uphill battle internally in the organization to get people to come back when you eventually fix it. So we did soft launch it just to make sure that all the kinks were ironed out initially.
So what kind of use cases were you trying to solve? Did you have these outcomes in place, or was it more like, hey, here are the tools, you tell us what you're going to do?
So I had this idea, and it came from the offsite that, and I mean, it's not my job, but I mean, I work with a lot of our customer success managers like daily, so I understand what they do. And I had this idea. Okay, I'm a CSM. I'm going to go speak to this customer,
Yeah.
and I want to know everything about that customer that's happened, because they're managing multiple customers, and just having a little briefing sheet there of certain things they might not be aware of. Customers raise support tickets for our portal, and you want to know which are the important support tickets, where are we at with fixing these bugs. The idea was that you could just type in the customer name and it just print out a couple of pages that you could just read and then know everything there is to know. And that was the first use case, and that was the one that it drove most the initial development with various tools that we put on, because I think I made it sound simplistic then. It really wasn't that simplistic to actually do that piece, but to try and get that use case then enabled many more use cases on top of it.
No, I love it. And so when you did deploy, I mean, how was the employee response and reception? Did a lot of
Oh, I mean,
people
it was.
flock in, or did they just, kind of stay away, let a few folks test out the waters first, or ignore it?
I mean, there was definite enthusiasm. There was definite enthusiasm for bringing everything together, and you could. You looked. I mean, there's usage metrics on the back end. People were using it, which is great. If you deploy a tool and people use it, I think that's success.
Absolutely. Did any use cases surprise you? Did anyone come to you and say, "Look what I built," and this was something that you just never even fathomed someone would go ahead and do?
I think the one, and I know we've done a post on it, and there's been a few follow-ons since. It was our CEO's shadow board. That still amazes me,
Yep.
And I'll say, if anyone had seen it, they need to see that post. It was absolutely fantastic.
I will actually link to it in the blog post here when we share this out. And I need to bring Matt in to have a full disclosure of how we built this. And for those of you who don't know, what our CEO has done is built this dream board of executive leaders, that these historically successful executive leaders, your Steve Jobs, your Warren Buffetts, and he's using this to bounce strategic ideas off of and to understand our direction and the challenges we run into. And no, it's not a replacement of a traditional board to give you that guidance, because they are locked in the past. They don't know what the future's like, but it gives him a great opportunity to have serious, strategic, deep level conversations and feedback and questioning on the approaches he's deciding on, that then prepare him and others even better for the board discussions. So I will at least link to that conversation down below. I want to do a whole episode just on that too. Now, you deployed this for employees, and then you started tinkering into different areas of using MCP to pull in data from these areas. You kind of mentioned this before about like reaching into our support tickets. I've noticed now we have a ton of different areas we can connect into that you've reached these tools into. For example, Google Workspace. I now have the opportunity to go in and say, "Hey, Google, what are the most important things that I should be looking at this week? Are there any emails that looked high priority that I didn't respond to?" And now I will get an output of these, of what my conversations were, anything that I haven't replied to, what was high, medium, or low priority. It's really exciting. Can you tell me about the different tools that you're connecting this platform into and the types of information we're able to pull to help feed insights to our employees.
Yeah, so I mean, from a tools perspective, the idea was to try and get into the tool every other tool that like you've got access to, and that itself was a bit of a challenge. I mean, if you look at MCP and a lot of these tools that you can download and use on the internet, they've been very much designed for an individual user with Claude Desktop or OpenAI, and you can install them on a per user basis. So what we ended up having to do was build our own MCP tools. We created a template that then allowed us to quickly onboard other APIs from other services. So as you said, we've got a Google Workspace one. We've got our own product integrated in there. We've got some of the new stuff with MCP UI, which is really worth checking out if anyone hasn't seen it. It allows you to develop a UI within the chat interface itself, and that then extends many use cases. So one of the ideas I'm still working on is essentially the idea of an executive assistant that can list a task list, and you can click in the UI and select, action this email, reply to this, delete that, or book account, and just try and make it interactive and usable as possible. Then what else we added? So we've got Jira, Zendesk. We've got links into our customer management system, so you get information there. I get requests, or a few requests a month, I'd say. In fact, I forgot the one, Google Analytics you asked me to do recently. So yeah, we added that in there as well.
I'm always the one that keeps bugging you. Hey, could it do this? Could it do this? Because these tools have been saving me. It's like I have a team of folks with the amount of time. These tools are saving me. And Google Analytics has been such a breakthrough for me because I own our website. I know Google Analytics, but I'm not in it every day. I'm not like a power user of Google Analytics. So having a tool like this to be able to ask like, hey, let's take a look at the last 2 weeks. What was our biggest spike? What was the best pages that we landed on? Why do you think? What times of the day was that? Does this correlate with a campaign that we sent out? To pull those reports, it's a lot of clicking. I'd probably spend an hour or two trying to compile that data. But now I can literally ask the GPT, or not the GPT, the agent you've put together for me with that MCP connection and get that. And I have yet to, there's only one area where it hasn't been accurate. And it's been when I've asked, can you link me to the report you're looking at? And I'd say about half the time, it will get me the right link and get me to the right place in Google Analytics. And half the time it won't. But I can live with that. In knowing that, in getting the information and seeing that it's still pretty accurate, it's rendering it correctly. I'm getting excited because it's been like such a time save for me. It's been astronomical. And not only that, and I don't mean to like plug Markup AI here too, but I use it all the time for writing. So so this podcast, I just did one of these yesterday with Casey, right? We use the scripts. It helps us record these podcasts and edit them real quick. I finished my interview with Casey. An hour after that, I was done with the video, exported and uploaded into YouTube. And then 30 minutes later, I had already used the transcript to generate a blog post and then check that blog post with Markup AI to rewrite it and get it into our tone and brand and style and make sure we're using the right terminology. And literally from start of podcast to 3 hours later, I had the episode edited, done on YouTube, published on our blog. And that's all because of these tools that you're deploying in this organization. And I know it's accurate. It meets our tone and style and branding. It's using the right terminology because you've built in our own product tools to make sure that what this LLM is generating is accurate and correct. So
that's incredible. I didn't know you were using it in that way. That is like awesome.
It's astronomical the amount of time that these tools in what you've developed is saving me. And I'm just one across the organization. I'm sorry, now that I'm like getting even more excited, what I'm really pumped about is how many different people are creating their own agents or GPTs to take on their own tasks. People that you traditionally wouldn't expect to have that much of an interest in this stuff. They're going in because of how easy it was to deploy these tools and how much it's enabled these employees to go in and think about their own problems and use cases and find ways to creatively solve them. So it's just been an astronomical, like exciting time to see these tools deployed. Sorry, do you have any comment on that before we're kind of coming up to the end of our interview? I've only got like another question or two here, but any comment on any of these other use cases you thought or found that were interesting?
No, I mean, I absolutely love people jumping in and sharing you making things and sharing it. One thing to share initially when we did this, because we wanted to encourage that, this isn't the tool that Martin Hempstock manages. This is a company tool, and I want everybody to contribute to it. That was really one of my main goals. Like, success for me is me not making all these agents; it's other people doing it, because then we've got a sharing community. And one thing we did was gamify it initially. I spoke to the right people. I was like, "Can I just buy a load of Amazon vouchers?" And then if we'll have a little vote, and the best person to build the best agent, get some Amazon vouchers. And it went really well. We had all sorts. We had like a Berlin transport agent that allowed people to like find the best way to get around Berlin. I think we had
I
we had
love that. That's awesome.
like a release note one, an actual genuine work case that just took the Jira tag, wrote the release note, and then our content creator could just have the release note straight away. There's just all sorts of interesting things on there. I think we've got a fitness one as well that has been made recently as well. There's just
I need to get
so
on that
much
one.
on there, and I love it.
I've got some weight to lose this year, so I need to look into the fitness one. We do have the running club, I think, right?
Yeah.
So now, not to talk about all like, sunshine and roses here, but what kind of headaches or use cases have you run into that just don't seem to work right? I've had these experiences when I deployed a couple of GPTs earlier on where no matter how much I tried, it wouldn't get to the number of integrations that we had correct until we, did some configuration. Are there things that you're running into that you're like, it's just not there yet, that people have tried or maybe you've tried to experiment with?
Yeah, my dream hasn't happened yet, and I think it's just the technology hasn't got there. So I've got this.
I was
The
going to ask you to
technology will
share,
get.
so yeah.
Yeah. The technology will get there. I'm sure, but I want an executive assistant that can do anything I want it to do. Like, literally, I want to get to a point where I've got all of the tools and the agents, and all of those tools and agents are callable from this central EA agent, and you can just say, oh, I need to book a meeting with Michael, and you just send it and it does it. Or I've got write up my like record the book a meeting and then write the minutes up, and just have the ability to call multiple tools. At the moment, I feel really far off that. I'm still working on a email management agent. I get so much spam, as I'm sure most professionals do, in the inbox, and it's quite good at filtering out that. But I'd love to get to a point where it just keeps and manages my inbox into a sane amount. I'm a massive believer in zero inbox. I aim every day. I strive to get my inbox down to like no emails. And if I could
Yeah.
develop an agent to achieve that, that'd be a good first step in this idea of having an executive assistant agent.
Nope, I feel you. A lot of my anxiety is driven by that inbox number, and I too keep a zero inbox as much as I can. And I feel like it's like I have this monthly ritual where I go into my email and unsubscribe from all the things that have bought my email in the past month. It's like I feel like it has to. It's like working out. It's just part of the routine now, and it's such a pain. I would last question I'd like to ask is what do you think is the next step for enablement, or what would be the next tools you think that would be or bring a great benefit to the organization that you're working on next?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I mean, you've just gave an example there where you've asked me to do something, I've done it, and it's been huge. And I think this is sort of the way that I've worked. Like, we've got the base set there, I think, in internal tools now, and it's now just training and adoption as we get more and more people using it within the organization. And I think most people do use it in the organization now.
Yeah.
The more feedback and tooling we get in there, I think the big bit, and there's getting more and more that LibreChat's just released a beta function for this whole idea of a chain of agents, which
That's
I
what
mean,
we're doing.
yeah, which is what I've just described. If I can get to a point where you've got agents for a specific task, and then you have a central agent that's aware of all of those agents, you then get to a point where you don't really have to think anymore. You can literally just write in prompts, do this, and it'll go and find the right agent to do the job. And that's next.
I actually think we were going to talk about this after our interview because I would love to make this orchestration of these agents because I have like 4 or 5 agents that I've already built that I use, but I have to manually go into them and ask and take action. I want to build a top level agent that knows what these tools are, like you said. And that is going to be a huge enabler for us here, I think, in the organization.
No, I think so as well. I mean, yeah, if we can get there, the EA agent is coming.
So, Martin, I can't thank you enough for joining. This was an amazing session to just like understand how we went from like really not using AI to help in our day-to-day lives to literally being AI first, answering our problems with AI first to see how we would address them first. And you and your team have been such an enabler of doing that across the organization. It's been exciting. I can't thank you enough. We've seen so much tremendous impact in the org just from having these tools available. So again, thank you for those and thank you for joining. And I look forward to bringing you on again.
Oh, thank you.
And for those of you watching from home, if you have any questions about what we talked about, how we deployed these agents, ask them below. We'd love to respond and get back to you. And again, thank you so much for watching this episode. We would appreciate a like and subscribe. Have a fantastic day. Take care, everybody.